Alrighty guys, so it was actually 2 nights ago. I did that Sunday night. It's now Tuesday night. Apparently I never picked up the video camera when I was done, and I never got my Z-Bend vice grips from work. I knew I was forgetting something when I was at work. But I'll get them. I'll get them for Thursday night and do it. I won't be at work tomorrow, so yeah, so I got the yellow dash put on here, and looks a whole lot better with this yellow dash. And I got the key switch in there, light switch over there in the other hole. I still haven't figured out what I'm going to do for a choke yet, because the choke cable I have, wherever I threw it up there in the front, will work. I'm going to go over to the tank garage tonight and see if I have another cable floating around. There might be a cable floating over there, who knows. Because I just put a new cable on this for the throttle, because that would be the same setup. So I'll have to look around and see what I can find. But, everything's on there and it should work. So the next step is I'll wait for a nice day, because there's no reason to haul this in the rain. And it's going to be fairly nice out. I'll take this to work and pressure wash it. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the steering back apart. And at the blow end, somebody made a suggestion to me, one of the old timers, Mr. John Langiel. Some of you guys may know him or not know him, but he basically suggested that I take the steering gear and grind like a 1/4 inch off the bottom. That'll let the gear sit down further, which in turn makes it mesh tighter into the steering column gear. And he said more than likely it'll probably work. He said now obviously you have to put the amount you grind off on the top with like a washer or spacer or something, but I think I'm gonna do that. And as far as the steering, I know what's going on. That fuel filter I have is actually getting in between the steering gear and the frame, and it's not letting you turn it. So what I need to do is just bite the bullet and redo the lines and make it right, and then that'll be good. And I still need to do a little bit of research on the oval tank and the square tank, blah blah blah. What I really need to do is see if I can find a 400 series with a serial number after this or right around it that has the oval tank that sits back here. Because at some point, obviously, they did go to square tanks by 69 for sure. They had this style tank in it, I'm pretty sure, which carried on over into the 800s and then the 8000s, and then I believe the early G series used the same metal tank. Pretty much so, and then they went to plastic in the 90s, late 90s. But yeah, from the mid 60s up till the end of production, they used basically the same tank. So go figure. But anyhow, I'll get that done, and I will bring you guys back then. And I need to buy, I think I mentioned this before, a tire tube and put in the tire for the 432, then that can go back on the 432, and then I can put the other tire like this back on this so they match. And then at that point I'll basically be at a spot where I can put this thing back together and use it. I'm going to still slowly be picking away at this red some, but like the floorboards here, get that black like anti-slip 3M tape on stuff. So you won't see most of that, but it's all in the works. See what I get into one day. So, okay, that's it for tonight, guys. Catch everybody later. And also, daylight saving time. It's still light out at 7 o'clock at night. That's nice. So, later, guys. Alrighty guys, so I got the steering gear off of there, and basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to grind this down this thickness And you guys are going to say, Steve, how are you going to know you're going to do that? Well, some of the 400 experts, some a lot wiser than I am from back in the old country, basically if you grind this down, this will sit, because the gear actually sits the other way, the gear will actually sit further down and it'll wedge these teeth in further. And I don't know if you guys will be able to see, but for the minimal amount I have used this thing, I don't know if you guys can see, but it has doubled over here once. Right here and right here are pretty thin. So this gear here is fairly worn too, but it's a lot better than what I took off. So basically, through some calculations, the gear itself right now, the thickness of it is starting out at 2.6200, and the washer here measures a 0.1315. And if you put that in your handy dandy calculator and subtract it, you get 2.489, or it's 885. I know that because I wrote it down. Looks like a 9, but 885. And I have my caliper set to that here. So what I'm going to do is basically I kind of have a, see if I can get it on the side. Basically I have kind of like an imaginary line, you know, I need to go to, and I'll just start grinding it off evenly, and I'll just keep the calipers handy, and when I get it to a point where it'll slide on there, or it starts measuring that thickness there, the 2.4885, then I will stop and I will put it back together and I will see what it'll do. But that should space it down a good bit and make it work. Am I spacing it down too much? I don't know. I'm kind of hoping not, but what I can always do is I can always get another one of these washers, and you know, I can grind them and make them fit, you know, as needed. It'd be real nice to have a lathe that could turn them down easier, make thin washers, but I don't. So I'm gonna get cracking at that, and I will bring you guys back and show you the hopefully finished product and installing it again, because my test drive showed its really ugly head that I was still having issues. So without further ado, let's get it done. And you guys can see it's not even going in and like contacting the spider web the whole way. It's just riding on the teeth of these gears a lot. So let me do this and we'll see how it turns out. Alrighty guys, so here is the finished product. I actually ended up accidentally over grinding it a little bit. Well, according to that, I'm about -50. On that side, I zeroed it out at the, what the heck was it? The 2.4, what was it, 889? I forget. 885. So, on this side, I'm almost about 100 thousandths. And 95. At least that's what I'm getting. 90, 75, somewhere around there. So maybe it won't be a real tight fit. But did I not just shut that off? -2.4870. So it's real close what we had. So there's that much gunk build up down there. 15 thou. Yeah, whatever. Okay, so basically, long story short, I'm going to take this, I'm going to put it in the tractor with this washer on top, and I'm going to see if it's loose and if I can even get the pin in. So here we go. I know it's a little bit dark, guys, but it actually seems really good. It's not, definitely not excessively loose. I say that's probably about as good as it's gonna get. Where did my... oh, there's my flashlight. Because see how much it's actually down below the gear? So I think that's about as good as you're gonna get, and hopefully as you guys can see, but the gears are actually meshing a whole lot better there too. See if... yeah, you guys can see it's going the whole way down into the bottom. Now, just stay put a second. Let me turn this the whole way to the end. You guys can see how good it's meshing. So, I am very happy with that. So I took, what was it, 0.1315 off of there basically. According to my measurements, I took, anywhere between 1.3 and another 40 would be what, 1555, and if I took 90 off, that would be another 50, so say 0.14 perhaps, so anywhere between there off, and that greatly helped that mesh. So tomorrow, no, I won't do it tomorrow night. I got a tractor club meeting tomorrow night, but I will put this thing back together and see if it still has that steering gear. Steering gear clatter it used to have. But I think that'll greatly help, and I thank the gravely, we'll say the old schoolians that told me that. And this may potentially save a bunch of 400 steerings. Now, can you update this to a rack and pinion? Yes, you can. But if you're doing a, like say a 50 point, original restoration, this would be the way to go, because you can make an old worn out gear still work. Even if it's 50% worn, you can get that gear to mesh in there tight. It should work for a lot longer. Let's face it, this is a fairly low speed application. Now, there is going to be some tension on this at times, don't get me wrong. I mean, I have no plans to put a loader on this or anything, but if you were doing that, then rack and pinion's the way to go. So, like I said, that's it for now, guys. Hook the tire rod ends up another night, and we'll just roll with it and see what the heck happens. So, later, guys. Alrighty, guys, I was going to see if I could record the Z-bending pliers I have. Well, they're not pliers, they're basically an old pair of vice grips with two pieces of key stock welded in there. I don't remember what size they are or anything, but they do work. So let's think about it. If you... well, I can only do it that way. Let's see if we do that, the Z is that way. Yeah, that's what I want. Oh. Hold on. A little too tight. There we go. See, it puts a pretty decent Z-bend in there. Hopefully you guys can see it, but it's not exactly focused on it real well, but you can see what it does. See, now that I have the Z-bend started, I can tighten them up. If I was going to be out here a lot tonight, I've got the channel locks, but see now, got a pretty good Z-bend. So, now I can stick that back in the dash here and hook the throttle back up. And then, the only thing I need to do is a choke cable. So, Figured I'd show you guys that. Redneck Invench. I've had them for quite a while at work. And they work as their intended purpose. Are they perfect? Not exactly. Will they work good enough? Oh yeah. So, later guys. Alrighty guys, so it's been a couple days since the Z-bending part. It's been at least 2, 3, something like that. I haven't really been out in the shop the last couple nights. But today is Sunday, so I got the steering all put back together here. And see if I can do this in a way where I'm not blocking your guys' light. But everything seems about 100 times better with the steering after I did that grinding. And I ground the gear down and put that washer below. Everything is way better. I know it's dark down in there, but hopefully you guys take my word for it, but the steering feels 100 times better. So, now that I got that part figured out, I gotta figure out the stuff that goes on top of it, i.e. the gas tank and the fuel line. So, as I found out in the last driving segment of this, is that I definitely can't have the fuel filter up here, which in hindsight probably isn't a good place for it anyhow, but when I originally did this, you know, I didn't want to mess with the steel or the copper lines, whatever they are. Because for right now, what my thought is I'm going to, I have that spool of 5/16, and I'm going to go from there, and I want to make it long enough so I can actually pull the gas tank up out of here and then take it off, because it is kind of a pain to get it out of there. But I also don't want it to where it's so long that it gets bound up in the steering and everything. So what I may do is I'm going to put some new fuel line on here, and then I will run it underneath, and I will zip tie it to this cross member, and then I'll see about this one, but I don't think I'll have to zip tie it to this. But that wouldn't be a bad idea or a bad fix to the problem I'm having anyhow. And that'll be it. So I'm going to do a little bit more cleaning, see if I can get rid of some more red off of this thing. I've been picking at this stuff slowly. From what I have been finding though, more and more, like these spots that won't come off, there's actually primer under them, and that must have been where it was rusty or something. I don't know. I am doing pure speculation at this point, but that's a theory I had. This thing must have had a couple rust spots or something, and they decided to go ahead and paint it. Who knows? So let me monkey with that stuff, and I'll bring you guys back when I make some progress. Like I said, mainly fuel line is what I'm going to be concentrating on today, and fuel tank, and bolting the tank down for the final time. I think I got the steering handle for last and final installment, I believe. Because basically, as long as this top pin never breaks, I don't even need a pin in the bottom because it's bolted right here. It can't come up or down easily. And if it seizes in there, it still won't come out. You'll have to drive it out. So I'm okay with that. So, alright. Let me handle that fuel line, and I will be back with you guys. Ding ding. Table for 4:30, please.